Our first question will be from Jesse Holland of MMA Mania. Jesse Holland, please go ahead.
Hectic couple of weeks. I think we're all in agreement that the fighters certainly held up their end of the bargain in terms of output. And I know it's still early, but has there been any dialogue with TNT about how the product was received? And without getting into the metrics, maybe you can share some of your own insight into how the one brand resonated with the stateside audience.
Sure, definitely. We've been in constant dialogue with the Turner team at the highest levels for the entire month of April, and they're very happy with what's happened, both in terms of just the buzz it's generated and the excitement from the fans. It's obviously a brand new product and a very unique product. It's a very unique brand and a very unique product as opposed to what's available in the U.S. today. So yeah, I mean, let's see what happens, but we are in very positive discussions right now.
Our next question goes to Nisi Icasiano of IB Times. Nisi Icasiano, please go ahead.
Majority seems to be happy with One Championship's decision to take a second look at the outcome in the fight between Eddie Alvarez and Yuri Lapicus. To some, it's a great development, but others couldn't help backtrack because this wasn't the case when Kevin Bellingon was disqualified in his title defense against Bibiano Fernandez 2 years ago. It's actually the same scenario. What's your take on this, and can you assure that One Championship will carry out the same procedure in the future?
It always does. It always does. For every DQ or controversial situation, and obviously the panel does an independent review, and it has to be a majority decision for something to be overturned. And in this case, with Eddie's situation, yes, there was very clearly 3 to 5 illegal blows to the back of the head. That was unanimously the unanimous opinion of the panel. But at the same time, the referee missed one of the key steps of issuing a warning and a yellow card and a stand-up instead of going straight to the red card. So it's a little bit of a different situation.
Mm-hmm. A few days ago, you were quoted that a fight between Eddie Alvarez and Oscar De La Hoya is a real possibility. UFC was heavily involved in the fight between Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather in 2017. Is one going to be totally on board if this fight between Alvarez and De La Hoya happens?
So we have the contractual rights, for the fight, for any of Eddie Alvarez's fights in combat sports. And yes, there have been discussions with Oscar De La Hoya, and he does want to fight Eddie Alvarez, but there's a lot of different dynamics at play. Eddie also really wants to go on a title run. I know that for a fact, ever since he joined One. So I think his top priority right now is still going for a title run in One Championship, but at the same time, if Oscar really wants to fight Eddie, then that's a real possibility.
Just the last question. Speaking of a boxing fight, will we ever see One Championship promote boxing again, like in 2018?
Everything is a possibility, right? One Championship is the home of martial arts, and we're always showcasing a variety of different martial arts. And the objective of it is to surprise and delight our fans who love martial arts.
Next question goes to Nick Atkin of South China Morning Post.
Yeah, just wanted to get your thoughts, first of all, on the main event, Aung La Sang, Renier de Ridder. What was the process there? Did you want to book that fight? Do you think Aung La is wise to take that fight? How do you see that one going?
Man, that transpired in literally, just literally a day or two ago, right? We announced it right after it was both verbally agreed. It was kind of crazy because, we obviously didn't want to lose our world title fight for One on TNT 4. And, COVID has obviously thrown a lot of curveballs at every major sports organization in the world. And we lost 10 fights to COVID just this last few weeks. And so it's been a mad scramble. And, Aung La is willing to fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. That's who he is. And when we told him that Vitaly had tested positive for COVID, he's like, I'm flying to Singapore. I want to fight. I'll fight anybody. And he was the one who threw it out. He said, I'll even fight Renier. And then so we then turned around and asked Renier if he wanted to fight at light heavyweight. And Renier said yes right away. So it's one of these things where two, world champions coming together, extremely game, unafraid of anyone. And so I think this fight's going to be something that the fans are going to be super delighted with.
And you mentioned a bunch of fights fell out there. Is Martin Nguyen and Okrayun definitely back on? It looks like Martin's flown back out. And is there any information you can give us on that? And are there going to be any events before one championship in power event?
Yes. Eddie Alvarez, I mean, again, everything's in real time right now, but from my understanding, all the athletes have tested negative for COVID. And obviously we're a day and a half away from everything, or 2 days away. And so everything's all good to go so far as we can see.
And also wanted to ask quickly about John Lineker. Is that gonna fight? Sorry, is that fight gonna happen with Bibiano Fernandez? Is that what you guys are targeting?
I haven't had time to talk to Matt Hume about that one yet. We've been so swamped with everything that's going on here that we're taking everything, one event at a time, and not having enough times for the dust to settle because it's back to back. So
Next question goes to Damon Martin of MMA Fighting.
Hey, Chatri, as we're coming up on this final event, this one on TNT4, can you kind of give me a sense of the overall success, failures, or whatever you're feeling about these events on TNT? And is this something you're hoping to do more of now that you're going into this fourth event, having more primetime shows here in the U.S.?
The answer is yes. We definitely feel this is our, official introduction into the U.S. And as I had said with Jesse Holland over there earlier, we're in constant dialogue with the Turner team, and they're very happy with the results. And for me, I would say one on TNT one, I have mixed feelings because you never want to start on a DQ and dead time, 15 minutes. Disappointing to see, but at the same time, we also made some production errors here and there that we normally don't make, and it just happened. It happened on one on TNT one. So small little things like that, but at the same time, we still had some phenomenal fights and some phenomenal finishes, and I think the fans really enjoyed it. And let's see what happens. I mean, there's many different options now that one championship has to showcase our brand of martial arts, our unique brand of martial arts in the U.S.
Earlier in the virtual media day, Eddie Alvarez had kind of said he's kind of soured on the Oscar De La Hoya thing and sounded like he's more focused on MMA right now. And I know you're not going to match make until after the fight, but if Eddie is successful, I mean, the magnitude of him and Christian Lee, how big that fight would be, especially if it aired, prime time here in the U.S. Is that something does that go into consideration in terms of the magnitude of a fight like that, or are you more concerned about the rankings when you're looking at Christian Lee's next fight?
Yeah, I think it also all depends on how Eddie performs. Obviously, if he doesn't perform well, then I don't think he's ready for a title shot. If he performs really well, then that's always up for consideration. Because Christian Lee has beaten, I think, the top four ranked lightweights already. So there is a strong possibility that if Eddie really puts on an incredible performance, that he's next in line for our title shot. Like I said, he's definitely one or two fights away from a title shot.
And last one for me, one guy who didn't get to perform at one on TNT4 is Sage Northcutt. I had spoken to him a few weeks ago, and he sounded great, but sounds like he was still having some lingering effects of COVID. Have you spoken with him, and do you have any timeline of when we might be able to see Sage back in? Because I know it's been quite a while for him.
Yeah, he and I chatted briefly 2 or 3 weeks ago when he had to pull out of one on TNT one, and it's unfortunate. Yeah, he's basically had some kidney issues from COVID, even though he had COVID like a few months ago. And he is young. He will bounce back, and we're hoping, for him to return this summer. But again, his number one priority right now is his health. And under doctor's orders, he just had to dial down the training to let his kidneys recuperate.
Next question goes to Jay Anderson of Cage Side Press.
Hey, Chatri, thanks very much for the time today. I just want to build off of something that Damon brought up there with Eddie Alvarez and the lightweight title picture. I mean, we also have Shinya Aoki on the card looking for his 4th consecutive win. If Eddie doesn't come through, do you consider making that rematch with Christian Lee?
Definitely, that's also a possibility. I also want to make, I want to really do Eddie Alvarez and Shinya 3. So actually, we're trying to make that fight happen for one on TNT 4. But it just didn't happen. But we'd offer that fight to Shinya and Eddie, the trilogy.
Absolutely, and I actually asked Eddie about that. He seemed lukewarm about it, to be honest. But I think the fans, and I assume you agree, the fans would like to see that one.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think before everything's said and done, I think definitely Eddie and Shinya, the trilogy bout is a must.
And one other question in regards to the DQ and the panel that overturned that. I'm just wondering if you can speak to the process of selecting that panel and how those members get chosen.
So the panel is pretty much the same people, but I mean, some of them, float in and out depending on obviously the timing, but it's basically officials, referees, and judges, both internal, external, as well as some other martial arts experts in the industry. And we don't like people to know all the names because of we don't want anyone to influence this independent panel. And so Matt Hume runs that panel, and if there ever is a controversial call, he runs this process. So it's a standard process with all independent votes and all that other stuff.
Sorry for that. Our next question goes to Fares of Singapore Strike Sports.
With the success with the Apprentice and also now one TNT, what's next for One Championship? Is there any plans further to make this kind of event in the future, or it will be continuously be going on after this event?
Sorry, what is the question?
With the success of the Apprentice and also now one with TNT, after this event, will there be more such event going in premiering in TNT?
I'm not sure what your question is, but I'll just answer what I believe it is. Of course, there will be more events, and we do expect momentum in the US. But again, we're in discussions right now, and I can't announce anything yet.
Okay, one last question is, after a good ratings and get acceptance from the American fans, do you think right now that Bellator and UFC should consider should take One Championship seriously as a competition in America?
Well, I mean, just from our ratings, viewership numbers, we're already, I don't know, 2 or 3x of Bellator's viewership numbers, right? Just the last few weeks, from my understanding. I think Bellator was averaging around 100,000 viewers, and we were averaging, anywhere from 200 to 300,000, depending on the show. So average viewership numbers. But again, it's still too few data points to really say anything. For me, it's just the official introduction into the US. I'm definitely very excited. We do have an incredible roster of world champion athletes from around the world. And again, we have a very unique brand and a very unique product that's completely different than anything you see in the US. And so I think, it's just giving another alternative for US fans to enjoy the greatest martial arts on the planet.
Jason Burgos of mixedmartialarts.com. Jason Burgos, please go ahead.
The first question I have is there any specific reason there aren't any set events up until the Empower event at the end of May? Is there a chance that something could be announced? You've talked about there's an ongoing conversation. Is there something that could be announced before then, or should we, is that pretty much set in stone? There won't be any events after Wednesday all the way until May 28th.
No. We just haven't announced things yet. I mean, there's definitely a ton more events coming this year, and right after one on TNT4 as well. But again, we wanted our fans around the world to be hyper focused on this series, and so rather than just clutter the noise. But yes, there is one dongal that I think we haven't announced yet, but it'll be announced.
All right, that's good to hear. Do you have any idea of who will fight Adriano Moraes next for the flyweight title? Are you looking more towards a DJ rematch, or are you looking someone like a Yuya Wakamatsu, who looked fantastic last week?
Yeah, I think Yuya is definitely one of the candidates who has potential. So again, we haven't had time to discuss all that, right? We've been very focused on just the back-to-back cards and all the different. I mean, we've had just a lot of COVID, bout replacements that we've had to deal with, and then obviously getting everything right for our U.S. broadcast, and a lot of changes. So we just haven't had time to let the dust settle and discuss what's next in terms of all the different winners of the last couple of weeks.
I had another booking question, but I'll skip that then. So I'll go talk back to one on TNT. The ratings for the second and third events on TNT were much better than the first one, although the third took a bit of a dip. Is there like a ratings goal number you're hoping for this last event? Are you hoping to maybe get in that 400K viewers, or are you just kind of hoping for stability? And something like the second event, which was the high water mark, you'll be completely fine with.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely again, it's just the very beginning, the introduction, and I'm definitely not satisfied at all by any means in terms of these numbers. I think it's a reasonable start, but everything we do, we try to be the very, very best. And so I'm glad that our ratings are already stronger than Bellator's, which is obviously the number 2 player in the U.S. But again, it's still early days, right? It's still very early days. But I have full faith in the fact that our unique brand and our unique product is something that's going to resonate, because it's a polar opposite of what you have in the UFC. So it's just something very, very exciting, something fresh, something new that fans can enjoy. And look, at the end of the day, if fans like both McDonald's and Burger King, that's fine with me. If they like the UFC and they like one, that's great. In terms of the American fans, the more MMA, the merrier, I guess.
Chatri, this next one is from Phil Star, Luis Morales, with this question: what's your opinion on Eddie Alvarez being right back here just weeks after his fight ended controversially? What does it say about him as a fighter?
Obviously, Eddie's a legend. He's the only man, or he's going to try to be the only man to win 3 world titles in the 3 biggest global organizations. So he's obviously UFC and Bellator champion, former champion, and now he's going to try to make his run here at 1. Eddie is game. He's always been game. He's a very exciting style. I still believe that he has incredible fights in him. And yeah, I mean, I think this COVID layoff actually rejuvenated his spirit, allowed his body to heal 100%. And he told me, I think last week or the week before, that he's never been more motivated in his entire life.
This is a follow-up from Phil Starr. One has been dealing with a lot of last-minute changes to its fight cards due to COVID-19 protocols. How has it been trying to maneuver that while still being able to give the fans a good show?
I mean, it's very tricky. It really is. We've lost a lot of incredible fights. We wanted to see the Team Lakai guys. We were really excited to showcase Lito Adiwang to American fans. We were super excited to showcase all the great talent from Team Lakai, and they all got knocked out with COVID. I was super worried that Edward Folayang was not going to be able to make it for one on TNT4, but fortunately he tested negative and he's here in Singapore.
This next question will go to Dylan Balker of My MMA News. Dylan, please go ahead.
I was just curious because anecdotally, some of the newer fans to the One Championship product that I've been showing these One on TNT shows to, like Umar Kane has really resonated with them. Like they really enjoy watching Rug get out there. I'm curious from your perspective, though, who's been a breakthrough star with the North American crowd through this One on TNT series so far?
Well, I think, from social media buzz, if you will, I think people were really surprised by Ruk Tang, our Muay Thai world champion. People were really super blown away by that fight. I think also Adrian Moraes he was DJ was a minus 850 favorite, and people just don't know that, especially the top guys in each division at one championship can beat the best in the world. I genuinely believe we have the best athlete roster in the world.
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned Rod Tang there, and it seems like the Muay Thai in the 4-ounce gloves has been a really prominent staple through this one on TNT series so far. And to that point, can you talk about the Muay Thai bout that's set for this card coming up here with one on TNT 4?
Yeah, I mean, Jackie Buntan and Ekaterina, I can't pronounce her last name, but Jackie versus Ekaterina is going to be an incredible fight. These are two world-class strikers. Actually, I think Ekaterina has a few WBC or WMC world titles under her belt. So it's going to be an explosive finish, I predict. And that's the thing with, if you love striking in MMA, that's essentially what Muay Thai and 4-ounce gloves is. It's pure striking, pure artistry, and the finish rates are just insane in one super series.
Yeah, and just as a quick one, if I can kind of get it in there, like, what's the interest, talking about the striking disciplines, what would be one's interest level in, say, promoting a high level Lethwei fight? Because that seems to be picking up steam.
So we have in the past, in our prelims, but again, it's something that we still are not 100% sure of yet in terms of the product. In many countries, headbutts still isn't that acceptable. But at the same time, I love Myanmar, and obviously I love Lethwei, which is the martial art from Myanmar, and it's truly an incredible martial art. But again, I'm sure we will showcase more Lethwei fights in the future, but it's just not right now on the cards for the near term.
This next question goes to Chris DeSantiago of MMA Island.
My first question is, with one on TNT entering its 4th chapter, the card is stacked from top to bottom. Would you consider this card the best card of the year so far in 2021?
I can only answer that after the event. Let's see the fights, man. Let's see, but it's gearing up to be an explosive card with explosive finishes. I think when I look at the card, I don't see any of these fights going the distance. It's just one of these cards where you do have this funny feeling that something incredible is going to happen. But I'll tell you after the show.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely looks good on paper. And I wanted to touch up on one lightweight, Antonio Caruso. He's coming off a good win over Foliang. What do you think is next for him?
Well, he was offered Marat Gafarov. I think it was a week ago when Marat fought Ray Yoon Ok. So Antonio was actually offered that fight, and he turned it down. This is a few months ago. So I don't know. I think he's going to be fighting this summer, but he turned down Marat. He turned down Marat Gafarov.
Yeah, he was telling me earlier today that he wished he accepted that fight. So hopefully we'll get to see a summer return from him.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Antonio is a good guy and a good fighter with a very bright future. So he'll be back, I think, this summer. I can't remember every single fight that's been offered, but I believe he's fighting this summer, I think in June or July.
Next question goes to Jack Gottsell of Tarpsoft Sport.
So you've gotten the American audience more involved here in are there any talks of maybe a cross promotion thing with Bellator or the UFC in the future?
I'm not interested in a cross promotion with Bellator. I'm definitely very interested, and I've said, whenever fans and media ask me if we would ever do East versus West, UFC versus one, would you ever do that? It's 100%. I would, in a heartbeat, say yes to a champion versus champion, one versus UFC. I believe we'll win our fair share, and they'll win their fair share. But I think it's going to be something that would be a mega event that all of the entire world would be interested in and would watch.
I think that'd be an extremely exciting event. And what's exactly the reason that you would never think about doing it with Bellator?
Because UFC is proving itself to be king of the West, and we're king of the East. So it just makes sense that the two biggest organizations in the world representing, different sides of the planet go head to head. That is a beautiful story right there. And, I believe our roster is the best in the world. And Dana believes his roster is the best in the world. And, a lot of the American MMA media obviously cover UFC because their American MMA media is based in the US and UFC is the king of the US. But, you look at the track record of UFC imports into one championship just the last couple of years. I think there's like 70-80% of them got knocked out and lost. DJ is the only one that did well initially, even though he struggled in his first couple bouts. But then, Adriano obviously finished DJ first time in history. So there are a lot of incredible athletes in one championship that literally would, in my opinion, beat most of the roster in the UFC. So
Next one is from Jude Briosis of Overtime Heroics MMA. Jude, please go ahead with your question.
As always, One Championship has put on a fantastic fighting spectacle for the fans worldwide with its One on TNT series. What was your hopes for the success of the series during the planning stage? And have you surpassed your expectations? Have the One on TNT surpassed expectations?
No, for me, I have mixed feelings about it just because how everything started off. And I feel like, we haven't showcased the full, one product. It's hard to cram everything into, 60 minutes or 90 minutes when normally our entire show out here in Asia runs 4 hours, right? So it's just one of these things that I wish, American fans would get to be able to experience. But, this is an introduction. It's the official start, and I predict bigger things in the U.S. Again, I'm happy that just in our first foray, our ratings, our viewership numbers are bigger than Bellator's, and so I'm happy with that. But again, in terms of absolute figures, I'm not content. I'm not satisfied. I feel like it's just the beginning, and one is definitely nowhere close to being a household name in the U.S. yet. And until it becomes a household name in the U.S., I won't rest. My team and I will keep pushing forward. We believe we have a really unique brand, a unique product, and we really believe we have the greatest roster of champion martial artists on the planet. And we want to showcase them, their skills and their stories to the American audience.
Our next question will go to BBC Burma. BBC Burma.
I'm pretty sure you're fully aware of what is happening in Myanmar right now. What is your future plan for Myanmar in terms of having one competitions there?
So that's a tricky question. For now, we have put Myanmar on hold, and we're just have a wait and see approach. I personally love Myanmar. I love the people. I love the culture. I love the food. And obviously, Ong La is by far the biggest hero or celebrity of any kind in Myanmar. And he has the full support of 54 million people, his entire country behind him. And we would love to come back to Myanmar with Ong La and throw massive events there, as we always have. But again, right now, it's we're in a wait and see mode.
So one more. Thank you. What's your take on future of contact sports and competition? Under this pandemic and post-pandemic.
I'm optimistic. I'm very optimistic. Again, for one championship, we are a global sports property. We are a media property. So what matters most is our ability to broadcast live events week in and week out across the 154 countries that we are in right now. And that's the most important thing. And yes, it hurts not to have a full stadium. But at the same time, I'm super grateful to the Singapore government for keeping the entire country safe. If you look at how many cases we're getting, community cases a day, maybe it's a handful, literally, 5 to 10 a day maximum, and many days it's 1 or 2. And the Singapore government has done a phenomenal job at social distancing and just really clamping down the virus, shutting down the borders, and really creating a safe country. Now, obviously, every country in Asia has reacted differently to COVID, and actually around the world. And I'm optimistic because vaccines are being rolled out around the world as they are in Singapore. And in no time, we'll be back to normal course of business. But again, I'm just very grateful right now that we're able to throw live broadcasts week in and week out.
Chatri, thank you so much for your time.